Today we welcome Richard Spitzer, who is the Senior EHS Leader in the electrical sector EMEA at Eaton, and they've been deploying the Fresk for a long time now. 600 people in 13 countries, and I'm looking forward to see how it went and what did you learn and what can you share about your experiences. So without further ado, the floor is yours, Richard.
Thanks, Florian. And just confirm, please, if you can see my screen.
Yes, good.
Fully. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So Richard Spitzer, I'm based in Morges, Switzerland. As mentioned by Florian, I'm working for Eaton now since almost 9 years. And we've started deploying the Fresk 2021 actually within the company. So what I will be presenting is actually the following in terms of order. First, just to present you quickly what Eaton is as a company, what we do, then what has been our Climate Fresk journey so far, and the challenges we are currently facing, and really trying to catch our second wind. And you will see that with the numbers, it's very significant. Don't need to explain much now, but you will see that. And then obviously we have the end of it for the question and answer session. So Eaton is a really global company. We are doing business in more than 160 countries actually, and what we are doing is making things work, basically. So what we call intelligent power component management company. So we'll see we have a variety of products in different ranges, but we are there to make products, systems, and so on operating. It's part of our kind of motto within the company to say that we are dedicated to improving the quality of life and the environment with sustainable power management technologies that are reliable, efficient, and safe. That's really the key words here, and we want to have our employees connected to that, thinking basically differently about our business, our communities. There is a lot of push actually from Eaton for our employees to do volunteering activity, and there is a lot of support done by the company on this. So it's not just, we do business, but we also care about communities we live in. So the type of products we are making at Eaton, we have two main sectors, as we call them, the electrical sector and the industrial sector. In electrical sector, I would say the main product lines are around power distribution. So we manufacture transformers, we manufacture switch gears, big ones for high voltage current, for example, but also very small equipment you may have at home, like a mini circuit breakers, for example. We have a lot of product around power quality, what we call uninterrupted power systems. So things we generally find in data centers, for example, to make sure that the data are not lost. We are doing products around what we call life safety. So emergency lighting, for example, is one of them, fire detection products. So that's the type of things we have in electrical. I'm not going through each and every one of them. And then in industrial, we are working with the aerospace industry, with the automotive or let's say vehicle industry in general. Actually, Eaton started more than 100 years ago doing gears for trucks. But currently, the split between electrical and the industrial sector is more actually around 60% on the electrical sector and 40% on the industrial sector. But we have developed very recently over the past years actually a lot of activities obviously on electric mobility. So doing product for electrical vehicles, whether it's cars, trucks, or even planes. So for those potentially who know Green Motion and the EV Pass charging network in Switzerland, actually we acquired Green Motion a few years ago to develop actually this charging, for example, products that we have in our portfolio. So finally, just to give rough numbers, so the Eaton has a global presence in 71 countries. I was mentioning 160 in terms of where we sell our products, basically, but here it's really our presence with offices like, I would say, corporate offices, headquarters like engineering centers, sales and service, but also manufacturing activities. We are a little less than 100,000 employees across the world. And for the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region, we are a bit more than 20,000 employees, 200 locations, and 44 countries, with the top 5 in terms of number of employees being Germany, UK, Romania, France, and Poland. And if we want to relate that into numbers for the Climate Fresk deployment, so we have deployed year to date 78 workshops, whether it's done internally or through the support of some of our Climate Fresk experts here. 641 participants, to be precise, as of last week, which was the last time we delivered a workshop. We delivered those in 15 countries in total, and we have 17 facilitators internally in yellow and orange belts. So now if we go into a bit more of the details on how we started with this journey. So I say it started 2021, actually, in France. We have a very small location. It's less than 50 employees, actually, in close to Paris, in Logne. So it's a small manufacturing site. They're manufacturing electrical testers. And actually, the general manager of that business, that small plant, decided to organize a workshop, a Climate Fresk workshop in the plant for his leadership team. So he contacted a facilitator nearby Paris. They organized that, and he had that in mind of not just stopping there, but also continuing with making a carbon footprint analysis of his business and all these kind of things. So that was really, I would say, the starting point of a longer journey they were starting with. I learned actually about that activity, and I organized a workshop online for our sub-regional EHS managers. So the way we organize in Eaton in the EHS function, we have various sub-regions, and at that time I was taking care of all the factories in France, in Switzerland, in Morocco, so mostly French-speaking countries, to have actually this workshop being organized virtually. So that was quite of a success, very good feedback. And at the end of the year of 2021, we were preparing what we call the strategic planning within the EHS function in the region. And I actually proposed the deployment of the Climate Fresk workshop as a support to our sustainability goals deployment. They were communicated by Eaton in 2019. So this is 2030. It's a bit of midterm goals. And part of those actually was marking them in terms of what is the impact of the Climate Fresk. So direct impact would be related to employee engagement. We have actually 3 objectives in that sustainability goals that are related to first, employee engagement. So we conduct every 2 years some surveys, and there is an employee engagement rate coming out of it. So organizing Climate Fresk workshop, engaging people in those workshops was basically potentially a direct link to this. We also have a goal on having each and every of our employees trained at least 12 hours per year, whatever obviously the topic being trained, and a workshop is 3 hours, so we would fit already 1/4 of the yearly objective with this type of delivery. And then there is also one I was mentioning about communities before and people supporting communities. We have an objective of having 250,000 hours of volunteering across the globe from our employees. And obviously, if you are trained internally within the company to become a Climate Fresk facilitator and deploy inside, you can also obviously deliver those with the general public in your community and so on. And we already have quite a number of our internal facilitators that have started as well to deliver workshops in their community. So that was really the initial objective, how we kind of sell this deployment of the Climate Fresk workshop. And we were pushing as well this indirect impact with our reduction of energy consumption of sites and so on, which is one of our objective as well of reducing 50% of our emissions by 2030 from our 2018 baseline. So that was really the start of it, and really putting this now as a strategy within the region. So at the end of the year in 2021, we're having just 23 participants, 2 workshops which were organized and supported by external facilitators, and no one still trained obviously internally. So what we did on the next year in March, we made a kind of a kickoff call with all our EHS managers at the various sites, the plant managers, and also some, let's say, key people like what we call green guardians, which are typically a group of employees at our plants that are focused on environmental matters. They regularly organize, for example, waste collection outdoor and these kind of things. So we had that call to, let's say, explain what we are going to do, and also potentially try to identify people that could be potentially interested in becoming a facilitator. Then in August, September, we were organizing a Climate Fresk workshop for our EMEA EHS team, so myself and my peers, together with my boss here in the region. And then following this one, we had as well a facilitators training. So we were all trained as a facilitator. And from September, December, we started as well to deliver our own workshops internally. And in parallel, I used a lot of, I would say, members of the community in various countries from the Climate Fresk to deliver online workshops in different languages with all those people from our plants that were, I would say, not capable of traveling all to the same place. So we're organizing that virtually, and we could touch different plants at the same time in their own language. So we organize workshops in English, in French, in German, in Polish, and in Turkish, all of them online. And as well here, we were able to touch more people for them to become then facilitators and start deploying at their own locations, so that the core team based in Switzerland and a few other countries won't necessarily have to travel everywhere, you know, to start delivering those. We were really looking for training people more locally at our plants. So end of 2022, we increased significantly, obviously, the number of participants. We had more than 117 workshops with those 6 delivered internally, and 8 internal facilitators being trained, with an additional 24 that were identified. And 2023 was really the ramp up. Big numbers at the end of the year. As you see, we reached more than 400 people at the end of 2023. We were having in total of 48 workshops, and actually the 35 workshops that were organized in 2023 were all done internally by internal Eaton facilitators. Out of it, actually, some of them delivered, let's say, more than others because they reached already the orange belt level. And we are continuing to identify some additional volunteers. So you see here a few milestones. I think the key ones here is when we started to reach out to leadership teams. So before it was kind of, okay, we organize a workshop at site and you are invited to join. So it was people volunteering. We had people from various functions, the shop floor and so on, that were coming to our workshops. But then we started to target some key population at our sites or in key functions. So this is the first time when we had actually a site leadership team joining a Climate Fresk. So that was actually in Morocco, in Casablanca. And we also had on that year the ops, so the operations team from one of our business called GIS. So we had the senior leaders from that operations, and then the plant leaders from each and every of the plants within that division who joined that workshop. It was organized with 2 tables and so on. Very good. It's a very good opportunity to start to reach to this kind of population. And as you can see here, we were at that time reaching out in 13 different countries, including South Africa. And the feedback we were collecting from the workshops, so at the end of the activities, people have the opportunity to register actually, to confirm their participation in a tool which is called Eaton University, and they rate the course from basically 0 to 5 or 1 to 5. And you see the scores that were there were very high. So the first one is about the course material presented helped me increase my knowledge in the subject, so it was 4.8 out of 5. The instructor effectively demonstrated knowledge of the course content and subject matter, 4.9. And then the knowledge gained through this course is relevant to my performance of my development goals. It was 4.5 out of 5. So, and really for me, the last one is the most important one because it's related on how they can then use what they learned during the workshop as part of their daily activities. And in those workshops, we typically end the debrief session and the discussion about actions, with them putting some post-it notes on the table, with things they can do as an individual, but things as well they can do, let's say, collectively, and most, I would say, precisely for us, within the company as part of their function. So they were mapping those sticky notes there about, how easy or difficult it is and what is the potential impact of that measure. And we started to collect actually this information coming from those debriefs at the end to try as well to influence the roadmap of each and every of the functions. So we were collecting ideas, for example, that would be relevant to HR community, to engineering community, and so on and so forth. So a lot of ideas coming to the roadmap for those, let's say, those functions as part of our sustainability goals. But this is when I start with the but. We already started to see some kind of early signs of the challenges we started to face in 2024, with, for example, some trained facilitators leaving the company or not able to deliver any longer because they would have changed roles and have, let's say, less availability to deliver workshops and so on and so forth. Because we saw already in our list of facilitators, we had what I was calling high runners and low runners, And obviously, if a low runner is moving away, you don't really see the impact. But we had a few people leaving or changing role that were high runners, and that's significantly impacting I would say, how we perform on the next years. Already in 2023, we were trying to, let's say, sustain really the effort, continue, and had a certain number of strategies in place. The first thing around keeping our own people, let's say, active, we are doing every 2 months, or still doing actually, a facilitated touch point, so one in French, one in English, to try to give, I would say, the latest update, where we are with the numbers, what are the next workshop being planned, any, let's say, internal relevant information on the program. We have also an internal, let's say, social media called Viva Engage, and we have a dedicated, let's say, chat for this one, where we can regularly post, informations, news, if there's a new article, a new report coming out, we can post it here and relate that to a particular card of the Fresk and so on and so forth. So really keeping, let's say, our community of facilitators up to date with what's happening inside the company, but also outside from a resource perspective. We were also looking at further engaging our senior leadership. So really looking at more site leadership teams, functional teams, as well the senior leadership team from the division of the businesses, continuing to develop our internal resources. So we were looking for training additional facilitators again, impacting or reaching out to more countries and locations, and also trying to have internal resources validated as green belt so that we can also deliver as an internal trainer. This was a year as well, 2023, where we started to hear about this Climate Fresk certification from the association, where as a company, if you deploy, in a very structured way and so on, you can be then assessed and get that certification. And the idea behind was to kind of strengthen Eaton's attractivity as an employer. And then the last point of the strategy was to really push further our people at the sites, to give them more ownership and more independence to facilitate, continue with our various communication forums so that they can continue to increase their soft skills and so on, and confidence to deliver workshops. put those workshops in what we call our EHS training matrix at site, so that, for example, you plan every quarter, every 6 months, or wherever you define the strategy, you know, regularly it's part of your training program that you have workshops being delivered at site. And the last thing we were thinking about was about creating a kind of a, not really a competition, but a internal certification about the deployment of the scheme. And the idea behind was to put some criteria with different levels. So when you start the deployment, you achieve at least 50% of your site leadership team members that have joined a Climate Fresk workshop, at least 25% of your site population has joined the workshop, and you have at least one site-based internal facilitator, you can be certified as the LEAF level. And then we were increasing like this the criteria and going to the next level, which would be the tree and the forest levels. But actually, so I say this is when we started to see the issues in 2024, and you see the numbers. What I'm saying, what initially made our success, we had that independence, regionally speaking, to deliver on this. We were very agile. We started to ramp up in terms of numbers and so on. Actually made that challenge for continuing deploying to the same pace. The first thing is that when we started with that program, we are trying to push it globally. So we presented to the corporate team in the US, because Eaton is an American company. So they actually were participating to a virtual workshop in, I think, 2022. But then we are not really convinced. So they say, we are okay for you to continue to do it, but we have other priorities. We'll deal with things differently and so on. So you will put that as a kind of a pool program, meaning plants can go there and take it instead of us really pushing hard on deploying. So it really stayed at our regional level. One as well of the consequence is that we don't really have a budget for it. So for example, that was the challenge last year, and Marina can confirm, unfortunately, we didn't get the budget to organize that additional train the trainer or facilitators training. The participation fee as well, obviously the more you deliver, the more you have to pay on this one. So we started to see a bit of a challenge on this one. We didn't have support from other functions, for example, communication. That was really something I appreciated when Quentin presented a few months ago. From a communication perspective, they were very good. And I would say from our side, it was probably more low profile and really not getting potentially the type of support you need to push more further this type of program. And then, as I said, those high runners were not delivering as before because they have a change in role, they leave the company, they have a higher workload or whatsoever. So as you see, current year 2025, we are just above the 50. And the planning for the end of the year so far, potentially we will reach the 100 people being, I would say, joining a workshop by the end of the year, but even that will be tough. So what we are thinking at the moment, and this is where I want to open more about the question, your ideas, your feedback on this, and obviously if you have any question, is the way we are trying to overcome and get our, I would say, the second wind on this, is to try to decentralize a bit further and, for example, really further rely on the country organization of the Climate Fresk, so that, for example, our new facilitators, they will be trained through that country organization, right? And then later on, because we are using it as well, I say, to communicate on our sustainability goals, we would be giving these new facilitator, let's say the Eaton stuff that they have to put inside the workshop. That I think also help in terms of, deploying soft skills, getting the network. You need to be more and more familiar and confident in delivering workshops, and also trying to decentralize as well this ownership for the participation fee with the country and the sites. And I say I'm open now for more ideas, more feedback, because yes, it's really a challenge for us at the moment. Yeah. Marina?
Yeah, thank you very much, Richard. And this was very interesting to see the big picture and realize the journey you've gone through and adding all the different ingredients. So thank you very much for sharing all the various elements. I have a question regarding some of the challenges you've gone through, and especially when you mentioned that the US would not be that supportive, and you mentioned about the low profile versus the communication that you could have, you could have leveraged, for example. So have you worked, or is it something that you've addressed? And if so, how? Or, if there is anything you're thinking about and some support you would be requiring? I'm curious about how we go and how do we tackle this to make it big, to make it visible, to make it valuable as well as a company.
So that's a bit of my challenge when I say the program is tolerated. If I make too much noise about it, it can be problematic. I mean, there is a lot going on in the company, in terms of our 2030 sustainability goals and the level of effort that it needs in terms of deploying energy efficiency project and all these kind of things. You have plenty of goals that we need to meet, and it's taking a lot of time for a lot of people. So the Climate Fresk is just, let's say, one of the elements for us that we have defined within the region that could help spread the message, make people realize how important it is and how urgent it is, to act. And the way it has been, let's say, perceived by the US, if I can't recall now who delivered this one, if it was you, Marina, or Julien, probably Julien, at the time. So they heard about it. Some of them really liked it, to be fair. It was not like a full pushback by everyone, but they were really thinking about other ways to address the challenges. Yeah. So the program is still here. We are still pushing for it. Obviously, here I'm the one, I would say, managing the deployment, and I'm still very motivated on this. But I have to be careful as well, with it's a bit political, kind of, yeah. So I need to find the right balance, and on the communication piece, there are a lot of changes actually within that function actually. So I'm waiting for the new communication leader to be nominated, and we'll probably have a quick call with that person whenever he or she will be nominated to try to see what we can do further on this.
Thank you, Richard. If you have questions, people, please feel free to write them in the chat as well. But I think Saskia has a question.
Maybe just a feedback, Richard. So I was listening to you, and it sounded like I could have said exactly the same, not in every point, but in many. So we have 650 employees at Interhome in 12 countries. So it sounds very similar. And we had 12 facilitators in the beginning. I think half of them have left the company. So I'm facing the same problems. It was a big hype, and we started as well with the leadership team meeting with 60 people 2 years ago, which was a great start. I think you have to start with the leaderships to get them on board, and it is fading away. I mean, the costs are not that high, but it really takes the people. You need to convince the people to go on. And what we do now at the moment is get the new employees. So from time to time in the different countries, we gather the new employees, and this is a way that is accepted to move on. But of course, we also have the problem with the facilitators leaving. So it's up to me, actually, in the end. Most of it is done by me, but I'm also trying not to move between all the countries all the time. But I think that's the biggest challenge. And communicating, we had it on LinkedIn several times, but I agree, more than once a year you cannot post it on a company account on LinkedIn, because then people will think you tell the same story every time. Yeah. But I mean, it's more of a comment than really a good way to continue. I wondered how you got new facilitators on board, because the initial training of these 12 facilitators was pretty expensive, and I'm very sure I would not get the same amount of money again to train again all these people. So did you do it by getting the green belt and then training yourself, sort of?
So for now, I say we were planning to have a few people, at least two, going through the Green Belt certification, including myself, actually. I missed the opportunity during the giant Climate Fresk that was organized in Lausanne last year. There was no observer in the morning. I was unlucky, and I didn't have the opportunity then afterwards to deliver for the general public and so on. So for now, it's not still there. It's still in the plan, potentially. There is another person who joined actually the company, and I learned she is already, I would say, a facilitator in France. So I have to reach out to her. Sometimes you have good surprises like this, a new person coming in the company and already trained as a facilitator. So we'll probably look for her support in future. But good feedback. Thanks, Asia.
Thank you.
Maybe also more comment than a question, but you got various ways to get trained as facilitators internally. In your case, you did internal training for the people, but I understand as more people are leaving, it's going to be difficult to reorganize internal facilitation training in-house. So what we provide as well here as an association at intercompany, by the way, there's still some room for the next intercompany workshop that's going to take place in Lausanne on the 6th of October. And you can find the link for registration directly on the website, or we're going to add it in the chat. And yeah, that's always, an opportunity to get some more people trained. And finally, yes, for us, it'd be ideal to have people train as green belts directly within the company. As far as I'm aware, it's not the case within Switzerland, but we got a few demands that are coming, and that's something that we want to make sure that we can develop as well, because the need from green belts within companies won't be the same as for general public, and this is something that we want to be able to follow as an association as well. And I'm going to pass the word to Marco.
Thank you. My question was about the workshops themselves. In this sense, were the participants a mix of different functions, or they were a part of the same functions so that they could find more relevant solutions for their department?
We had actually a combination of the two. To be fair, in most of the cases, these are people from various functions that are coming in, but we've been organizing on some instances a workshop just for one function. So, for example, we had a few with operations functions where we had this group of people, and obviously, as you say, they are, let's say, more able as a group to define what they can do together within that function. Yeah.
Thank you.
And when we were doing this, we're always trying, obviously, to have them understand what, as a function as well, they can contribute to our sustainability goals. So which one of the 2030 sustainability goals they would be, let's say, the more affecting through their actions.
Thank you.
Welcome, Marco.
And I'll pass the word to John, which I'm sorry, but
That's okay, Mercedes.
I forgot Mercedes.
Sorry about that. Hi, first of all, thank you. It was very insightful to hear, where you got to. I'm just trying to think in terms of senior management and those who actually provide the funding. And if I was in their seats, what are the questions that I would be asking myself? And I've got a few questions, but one is I'm not quite clear what the objective is at the moment. Is it to train all the employees? And then, basically what would be the impact of that? And then the other questions I have is, have you measured the impact beyond the number of facilitators or the number of belts? For example, how many employees did other things in the community thanks to the Climate Fresk, for example? Has it impacted the employment? Is the company more popular, you know, with the young generation, for example? I know these are super difficult to measure, of course, but I don't know if you see where I'm coming from, is that maybe have one or two, you know, key employees that can actually testify that, you know, from various communities, etc. But basically, people who invest, they will need something back, and that something back is either the branding of the company or new employees joining because they are so excited about, you know, the green aspect of the company, etc., etc. And I was just trying to think, is that something communication-wise that could be improved, if not done already, of course? Thank you.
Thanks, Mercedes. Great question on this one. What I would say is one of the first action that I mentioned before about capturing these ideas from the employees, you know, individual action and collective actions, and mapping that into the roadmap of each and every function. That was a request coming from management when they started to see, you know, how much we were deploying those. So that came 2 years ago with the senior leadership team of the region, where we were presenting actually the deployment on a quarterly basis. They said, okay, that's great. I would say we sponsor that. We allow you to do it. We give 3 hours of our people to join workshops. So what's in it for me now as a leader of the region? So really this idea of collecting and feeding this into the roadmap of each and every function was something that was appreciated. Now the thing is, as you say, it's very difficult to measure precisely these type of things. We have seen people joining Eaton because of the branding the company is making around working on, you know, energy transition, sustainability topics, and so on and so forth. So I had actually recent cases where I was interviewing people within the EHS function and asking them how they learned about Eaton and what was their interest in joining the company. And I had a few people actually mentioning that. Now, they didn't mention the Fresk in particular because that's not something we are really advertising a lot externally. Potentially because of that lack of interactivity or work with the communications function. They can certainly help putting more on this. The sustainability report as well that we are producing on a yearly basis, and Marina was making a comment on the last one, which was released, that we are not mentioning as well the Fresk in there. It was, if I remember well, in the 2023 report, because we had a lot of, let's say, good numbers on there, but 2024 was not something we were really proud of. So that was not included in it, but certainly something we can leverage more for this attractivity, because it's always a concern. You want to attract the talent, you want to attract the people that are interested in and motivated to work for the company. So that's typically one of the things they will be looking at for the new generation. But something, as you said, difficult to measure.
Yes, thank you. It sounds like the communication team is the one that would be really useful to get on board. Even if it's just, sometimes it's just like a very short, snappy movie, you know, video of a few workshops across several countries. It can be 1 minute, and, you know, you can post it on LinkedIn, you can post it internally. They actually don't cost that much, but they can reach out a lot. So I'm really hoping for you that, you can get that communication team on board. Thank you.
No, thanks, Marcela.
I would like, there is another question. No, maybe. If you would make a ranking of the, let's say, functions that are are really needed to be on board on this project, what would be the first three, let's say, mentioning that the top management probably is the most important?
I would say, first of all, operations, because most of the workshops we are delivering are in manufacturing plants. So if I don't have operations and therefore the site manager of those plants with me, that won't work. They won't release the people and so on and so forth. So operations would be the first one. Then HR, because they're also supporting on, let's say, for example, the organization locally and these kind of things. I'd say that that's my first two. And if I have to give a third one, I would say engineering. Not necessarily about the need for organizing and so on, but from a functional perspective, they are the one with potentially the highest impact on our emissions. Because as many companies, most of our footprint is related to scope 3 emission and the use of our products. So engineering has a big role to play in that goal. So it's I would say the third function I would put in there, even though it's not directly linked with the workshops. But
thanks.
You're welcome, Marco. Francine?
Thank you. Yes, we had a question from Francine, but maybe Francine, you want to express it yourself in the chat. Well, maybe.
You're on mute, Francine.
Sorry. I was without my ears, and I'm sorry I don't speak a good English, but I just understand well and suggest to try the second version, the second generation of the Climate Fresk, because no, I don't know if you already test it. It's very easy to facilitate it with the support of the workshop, and it could stimulate the energy of the facilitation and the pedagogical path. And the debrief with the path of empowerment is very good training to the structure, the action with the objective of long distance of objective. Very, very good. I'm sure it could be energy for a new path, a new goal for the Fresk.
Yeah, I wish so. That would be a good one. So yeah, to answer your question, Francine, actually, we started to discuss about it during our last call with all our internal facilitators. So mentioning about 2G is now available. So we are waiting for the translation of other languages, because for now, if I'm correct, it's only French and English. So it's in our plan, let's say. We have not kicked it off officially, but it's clearly something that each and every of our facilitators will need to learn from and let's say adapt their way of delivering to that new version. Yeah. Good feedback. Thanks, Francine.
And a quick word on this. There's a working group as well dedicated to the 2G in companies that is working on it, to have a subversion dedicated to companies, because the release of the 2G so far was more with the aim of general public. But it's coming, and as Richard said, it's getting translated in more and more language and will be available soon. I suggest we are slightly behind on time, but yeah, it's always interesting. Maybe we take one last question from Quentin.
Yes, thank you very much. Few questions / remarks. So if you need some contacts in countries, I think it's quite easy to reach out through the Climate Fresk portal. So I managed to get some contact in Malaysia, in China, in Japan, in countries, and people are they reply quite rapidly, so it's really well organized. On my side, I had no budget to organize basically those training in those countries, so it was quite easily cases were quite easily done, but they are quite helpful, and I still have those contacts if you need. So happy to share. Regarding the commitment and the communication, I think on our side we've done also a lot of effort on the communication side, but still we are struggling to have more and more people joining. So I would like to get a bit your perspective regarding the commitment of the leaders, the senior leaders. How do you have them join your different sessions? And what was the feedback as well from all the participants that join a Climate Fresk online? Because for me, it's still not an easy tool to use, still complicated to attract people to come over for a workshop of 3 hours online. So if I want to make the case and making sure that we can, have more and more people joining, especially online, I need also to make sure that I would have good participation rate and people will be interested in joining.
So I'll try to remember all the questions. So maybe from the last one. First, we decided not to use online delivery.
Okay.
So it was done initially when we started together with the support of the Climate Fresk Association to reach out in many different countries and I would say touching plenty of plants at the same time. But once we have someone in a plant being trained, that's only face-to-face.
Okay.
It's not because we didn't see the benefit of it and so on, but we really prefer to have the face-to-face delivery. That was one of the decisions we took. Yeah. Then I don't believe it's an issue today to get people joining workshops when they are organized. So when we have, because probably as well, it's maybe 3 years, but there are a lot of plants where we have hundreds of people over there. And when you start the deployment, you have 1 workshop, 2 workshops. So you always find, people to come. So it's not a big deal at the moment. The problematic we have is more to have facilitators, taking the time to organize a workshop. So we have people that are, let's say, they vary quite well, and some of us that are struggling. We had the case, for example, in Casablanca, Tangier in Morocco. In 2023, they organized actually a EHS week. And during one of the day, actually, there were 4 tables in the morning for a Climate Fresk workshop and 4 tables in the afternoon. So in one day, they, I would say, involved around 60 people, if I recall the numbers. So that was a big one. But for example, they didn't do that in the next year, or they even didn't facilitate just 1 workshop, 1 table or whatsoever. So it's really about motivating our internal facilitators for delivering, which is the issue, not necessarily having people joining when a workshop is organized. Yeah.
Okay.
And then for the coordinators, I think I'm familiar with the network. I've been actually when delivering in new countries, for example, first time we delivered in Romania, I contacted actually the country coordinator to get, for example, information about numbers for the country. So it's always better when you give things that people can relate to. So that's clearly a network that we will leverage for training facilitators from now on, instead of trying to organize that centrally.
Okay, good.
And I think I answered all your questions.
Maybe I would have one last question regarding the certification as an employer.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there is some online information that I could read through. I had no clue that it was existing, so happy to get some info here.
Yeah. Florian, you want to answer this one? Because we were discussing it before the call started, actually.
Yes, very good point. And I've been trying to look for more information. I know there was a program that was ongoing when I started like a couple of years ago, and that's something that's been set aside by lack of just priorities. But that's a good point. It's something that's been coming regularly as well, and a point that we would like to raise. We're going to go to a seminar next week, and maybe there'll be something that we'd like to raise to the Mother Association back in France. But yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you very much, Richard, and thank you everyone for attending. This has been a very lively and insightful conversation. So thank you for all that you shared, Richard, and thanks everyone for their questions and remarks. And we will have the recording on our page, which I put at the beginning of the conversation, and I will advertise it on LinkedIn as well. And I hope you all have very helpful and impactful fresks, and see you soon for the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you very much.
a lot.
Bye.